Hello and welcome. What's up, Tom? How's it going?
Hey, bro. Hey, honey.
It's been a long time away from home. It's been busy.
Nice match you just played there. Thought you played very well in game three.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. I was on tilt for my opening hand. I wasn't sure I could keep it, but I had to hope that he was an all-in on like diminishing returns type hand, and that I could draw into something reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the seven you drew was perfect, but I think the commentary thought you might pyroblast the draw seven, and obviously your hand has nothing in it. I think it was great not to, and see what you could peel.
I was worried the draw seven wouldn't resolve, and either way, I'm losing my Lotus. So like, I don't know. There's a chance it was wrong, but
No, I think that was definitely correct. I liked how you played that game. The only thing I might have done differently was just playing the young pyromancer before you cast ponder, just to get an extra token. But I'm not
yeah.
sure the token changes the clock.
No, I didn't think the tokenness was going to matter, and I wasn't sure that Young Pyromancer was what I was going to want to do after I saw my top three cards.
Right. That makes
So,
sense.
yeah, it ended up not working out for me because I just lost the token for free. But yeah, it would have been. I like the line I took on that turn. I thought after I cast the Ponder, it was still tough whether to actually cast the Young Pyromancer, but I thought I wanted just an extra turn on the clock there,
I
and
think you
hope.
definitely wanted to. Yeah, I like that
Oh,
a lot.
hey, look at you! Yeah, what you look like.
So
Yeah,
now we're going to see Steve Menendian, the reigning champion, battling against Dave Williams, who like myself, is battling with Dredge this session.
Yeah, what's up with you guys not liking fun?
I think the sideboard games of Dredge are actually very interesting. I think the
Yeah,
game one's not as much.
yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, Menendian played Bob last week and didn't have too much trouble. And me and Dave played an interesting match where I got annihilated in game one. I was just had to scoop in turn two, and yeah, he mulliganed to Oblivion in game two, and in game three I got to cast lots of sideboard cards. I thought that Dave's most likely deck was going to be Dredge, with the second being Shops, and that Randy's most likely deck was Belcher, but not too far behind that. I thought he might play Dredge, so I ended up loading up with Dredge Hate, and that worked out last week.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting element trying to figure out what each person's going to be playing. And I think
But
certain people have more polarized ranges than others. Um,
this
you
is
know,
the
they,
first time in my life I have three matches, and I'm going to use all 15 cards on my sideboard. I felt like a genius.
well, here this round we're going to see Menendian, who I mentioned, won the inaugural season of VSL, which is pretty impressive against the collection of characters we have here. Also a vintage world champion. One of I think we have two of those I think total in the league, right?
Is that the case?
We only have one. I'm actually not sure. I know that title has moved around a bit, but
Yeah, I think that Bob lost to Owen, and I think Rich lost to Steve, but I'm not positive on that. My vintage world championship knowledge is just not what it should be, maybe.
I think actually that sounds right. But it clearly knows his vintage inside and out. And here, despite the restriction of Treasure Cruise battling with Delver, similar to you swapping and dig through time into those slots, still using the delve mechanic on the card draw.
Yeah, I only went with the one dig through time. I wasn't sold on the card necessarily, but Steve's going back to his trademark Trigon Predators, which he has played many, many, many times in vintage tournaments, and not my favorite card in the world. I don't know what you think about that one, but it's also not going to be too hot in the Dredge matchup. Hey, you.
Yeah, definitely not going to be at its best here. I mean, it's actually a card I've played. I think one live vintage tournament ever that I can remember, and actually played Rug Trigon Predator in it. So I've played the card before. I think it was a lot better back then. It just wasn't quite as explosive or as punishing as it is right now. This was long before Young Pyromancer was a card, for instance. I think there was just a lot more decks that it was good against,
Yeah,
and now you obviously have better ways to get ahead. We'll see. I think against the decks that we've seen so far in VSL, it's not at its best.
yeah. Steve definitely wanted to come prepared for shops more than most. Then we have David Williams, my ex roommate and one of my closest friends, the Rug Doctor. World Series of Poker main event runner-up, top 8 in Tokyo, 3 Team GP wins and nearly 4, Paul, and about 50,000 career winnings, a whole boatload of pro points, and he shows up at the pro tours at his leisure here and there when he has some free time. Obviously, has loved Magic for about 20 years now.
Yeah, and Dave, I think earlier was doing commentary, and I was really impressed with the caliber of his analysis. That was excellent. Obviously, he spends a lot of time thinking about vintage, really understands the format, and here bringing a version of Dredge I actually like a little bit more than the one that I showed up with. It's only off maybe by 1 or 2 cards. In fact, it might only be off by 1 card, but I really like that extra unmask in the main deck.
Sure. Yeah, Dave definitely has commentary chops. I mean, no stranger to publicity. He's done a lot of commentary on poker and Magic, and yeah, he knows what he's talking about. He plays a lot of vintage, and you can see him in a lot of the vintage queues, vintage dailies, vintage championship events, whatever you put on Moto. And he's one of the few of us who's able to fly out to those vintage championships on the East Coast. Not always easy with a crazy schedule, but he's not one to miss that.
No, absolutely. I remember when Vintage first came out, when the Power was released on Moto, he and I were scrambling both to pick up a set right away, and we started battling in the queues and played each other probably 10 times. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was during the World Series of Poker too. He'd come in every day, just like, just picked up a Lotus, Sapphire,
oh yeah,
all this, and he's just playing while playing poker. He's just like, I'll get in the vintage queue too. Why?
Yeah, texting me from the table saying, "What's the price of Lotus now? Get me one." So that was fun. And here we can see some opening hands. This is pre-mulligans, I'm guessing, because I can't imagine Dave's keeping his 7 there.
Yeah, that hand is as bad as they come, huh?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the key with Dredge, for the viewers who haven't seen the deck in action before, really is finding the card Bazaar Baghdad, which is so important to the deck. It lets you, rip through your deck with the Dredge mechanic, activate it multiple times a turn, and dumping your Dredge cards into your graveyard, which is obviously huge.
Yeah, I mean, that even loads up with the card Serum Powder, which if it's in your opening hand, you can get a free mulligan. So that's how important finding Bazaar Baghdad actually is, that you just want to keep rolling the dice, try to get it. Dave
Yeah, you don't really ever keep a hand that doesn't involve Bazaar with the deck.
Dave is saying that they need to restart the game because he doesn't want to mulligan.
There we go. Dave down to 4 cards. One of those cards is Bazaar. He would love to have a Dredger actually in his hand, but
right.
He'll take this for sure.
Yeah, any hand with Bazaar, especially game 1 against Delver, is going to be keepable, but yeah, he's going to need to actually be able to do something. Steve has Lotus in his hand, so his draw is going to be more explosive than the average Delver draw. Basically, no interaction game 1. Game 1 is as close to unwinnable. I think Dredge is favored over Delver in game 1 more than any other matchup you can create in Vintage, at least that I've seen. Among real decks, that is. And yeah, it's just there's no way to interact with the powerful engine. And honestly, Delver can't kill that fast. So having a Black Lotus draw will help that a little bit, but Trigon Predator is not really a call.
I mean, here, Steve's will present 5 power on turn 1, assuming that Delver flips, right, by fetching a blue-green land. So that's as fast a start as he can hope for.
Well, he can also just get misstepped right here.
That is true.
Gets countered back. He only has the Delver on turn 1, and he had to spend the Lotus, which means the Trigon just isn't hitting the board. So here's just a way to preordain anyway. Try to set up this Delver.
What do you think about preordaining here versus just running Delver out there?
I think it's probably right. Like getting Trigon on the board, if that's not a huge priority of yours, then it makes sense to lead on preordain. Maybe you'll hit like Young Pyromancer. I guess that's not going to change much. Still just going to cast that afterwards. Yeah, I just don't see a reason not to lead on preordain, I guess.
The one thing I like about presenting well, actually, no, he wouldn't be able to. I was thinking if he presents both Delver and Predator and Trigon here, assuming that there was no mental misstep involved, he actually has the play then of Pyroblasting his Predator on a future turn to remove bridges while still keeping the Delver as a clock.
That is an entirely possible play. Of course, he still has a bolt and stuff in his deck.
What's that, sorry?
So, of course, he still has bolts and such in his deck because it's obviously game 1.
Yep.
So there will be a few ways to kill things. Of course, Dave being down to 4 cards, I mean, Steve knows that one of them is Bazaar. Like, that's just how it works.
Yep.
we see what he's looking at? He's been on the tank for a while here, unless Dave has been thinking. No, his clock. Steve's clock is ticking. So brainstorm into the grip, get fired off immediately, so that Trigon's going to get to go away if he wants.
This might get misstepped here.
Oh yeah, very real possibility.
And then then Steve has decided, does he want to Pyroblast the misstep and resolve this brainstorm? And oh no, Dave letting it go. What do you think he's sitting back on here, hoping to counter the misstep? If he's just waiting on Delver?
I guess the clock, just figuring that Bazaar is going to win the game if he gets a few extra turns. I don't know. I assume that Steve's just going to actually play the Pyromancer now.
Right, I agree with you there.
It's going to generally present the faster clock. And his hand's pretty good. Dave obviously looking for anything that can dredge.
Yeah, Dave likely... that was not what he wanted. Dave's likely on like a turn 3, turn 4 kill here, you think, even if he hits a dredger right away?
Yeah, optimally that would be where he could win the game. I mean, he still has to run pretty decent having actually 0 dredgers.
Yep.
So Steve not drawing a land is helpful. If he didn't have that misstep. Instead, the clock has just gotten dramatically faster. All right, well, let's see what this Bazaar digs up.
Any dredger will do. Oh, okay. Not quite dredgers, but at least they'll come into play.
Yeah, not super exciting.
Here, Dave activates correctly in his upkeep, so that way he can draw and dredgery hits with his draw step. The timing of Bazaar there certainly relevant.
Yeah, holding the land, get to bring those blood gas back and present a bit of a clock.
Let's
Not
see.
hitting this. Yeah, he hit. It looks like a bridge and blanks, a couple Bazaars, a powder and an unmasked. So no real effect there. Not hitting another dredger, not hitting any Narcomoebas, not hitting anything special. Just the one bridge, which Steve can turn off if he needs to by blowing up his own Delver. That bridge from below does nothing when it's in play, but when it's in your graveyard and a non-token goes to the graveyard, you get a 2/2 zombie. But whenever an opponent's creature goes to the graveyard, you have to exile all your bridges. So,
Like if I'm Dave here, I actually might be naming Lightning Bolt or Forcible, one of the two. And Dave does in fact name Lightning Bolt, looks like.
sure.
Yeah, you need to protect your bridge when your resources are this thin. Unfortunately for him, Steve has the other way of putting a creature in the graveyard with the Pyroblast.
Yeah, but getting the Delver off the table is not the worst in the world. The zombie token, you kind of want to block and kill things anyway. You don't want to take too much damage, and losing one bridge isn't the end of the world. So, I'm not sure. We actually have somewhat of a game, which is rare for the Dredge Delver game 1.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we're seeing just Dave. Steve really with a great opening draw for him. Just the only thing you want to do here is just present as fast a clock as you can.
Yep. I assume that the card that Steve most wants to see is just going to be Strip Mine, which I assume is also in his deck, which I'm not positive on, but I assume it's in his deck.
Yeah, that does seem like one of the best cards he can come up with. Pull up his list here and just make sure it's in there. But I assume most of these Delver lists play it.
Yeah, Rich decided not to run it. I'm running Strip Mine and Library in my deck.
Steve is running just the Strip Mine of the two.
Yeah, that's the more traditional build, I would have to say. And just the Delver comes in, so yeah, the Blood Gas Cabal Therapy combo is able to save a bunch of damage already. Not too shabby. He'll bounce his Undiscovered Paradise, which of course the interaction with Blood Gas, the landfall ability coming into play from the graveyard, It's pretty huge. Plus, it gives you an extra card to discard should you want to with Bazaar, if he was able to Bazaar into, let's say, a second Bazaar, which would both give him the land for his Bloodghast and give him another Bazaar. So, nice combination there. Undiscovered Paradise, a really sweet land for this deck. Again, he's just kind of hitting air. He had a couple dredgers finally. Still no Narcomoebas, not another bridge, nothing he can flash back. Is that some Icarids? Or is it Unmasks? I don't know. There's something.
Looks like both. Interesting. Dave chooses to hold the Paradise here.
What's the reasoning behind that?
I mean, to say if you play the play, you can always return to your hand by tapping it. I usually do that just to it's safer in play, but it doesn't really matter in this matchup. And obviously, having it in play just means he can't bring back. Wait, hold on. He has a Bloodghast in his graveyard, right?
Yes.
Oh, then he definitely should have just played the land.
Yeah, I don't know the reason not to, but I've never played Dredge in my life, so.
Yeah, I think he just brought that Bloodghast back and then just bounced the land again to his hand by tapping it.
Yeah, that would have been my assumption on that one. Interesting. Is there a reason you would not want Bloodghast in play?
Nothing. I mean, you already have one in play. I can't think of any reason why you wouldn't want a second one.
Yeah. Interesting. Steve's still stuck on just the one land, has tons of creatures. The Black Lotus opening hand was a nice one, but not able to take too much advantage in what is a really bad game one matchup.
So I think, does Bridge remove itself if a token dies on the other side? I think it does, right?
It does if one of your... It doesn't care about giving you anything if one of your tokens dies.
Right. I'm going to look up...
Dies, I think it is a...
Take a look at the card here, make sure I remember what it says. Yeah, so here I might even just be attacking with these 1/1 tokens and make Dave choose between killing off a 1/1 and losing his bridge.
Yeah. I assume that's what Steve's thinking about. So much filler time in the Steve Menendian matches.
Yeah, these ones are challenges. Steve might also just be, thinking through some doomsday splits from last season.
Yeah. Dave's line is, well, hope I dredge into something sweet. And Steve's turn is just like, cast what I want, but what do I want?
He's definitely a methodical player. I think I would be attacking with these tokens here. See if he decides to do the same.
There's really nothing to lose by attacking with them, right?
I would honestly be sending all the creatures. I'd be sending the 2/1 as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would attack with everyone here, I think.
Yeah. It puts him dead into the Delver flipping next turn with the Bolt, right? Which seems huge.
Yeah, and it would get rid of the bridge.
Yep.
So both are good things.
It's possible he's afraid of Dave, spiking Flamekin Zealot and comboing him off, but
well, if that happens, blockers aren't going to change that, right? Isn't getting rid of the bridge so much better?
Well, he might think that Dave will just take all the damage and then try to kill him, and he thinks he needs blockers back to not lose. It forces Dave to have a couple extra tokens.
It does do that, but isn't he kind of just going to flip his entire yard or not at this point?
Yeah.
It does feel like that's what's going to happen. I mean, he gets to hit 2 dredgers off the Bazaar and then dredge again. He's going to be milling, I assume, 17.
Yeah, and also if that's what Steve wanted to play around, then he should just leave up the mana and leave up Bolt.
Yeah.
It's a much more effective way of doing that.
Exactly. Don't you want to just leave that up on your turn or Pyroblast or anything just you can remove all the bridges?
Yeah, I think Steve's 2 choices were to either the line he took by attack with all the creatures and leave Dave dead to a spell on top, or to just attack with just Delver and leave up all of his mana.
Yeah, that's...
But I think this halvesy plan he's gone for here, I don't think really eliminates much of Dave's outs and doesn't put him on a 1-turn clock.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see Dave's graveyard, but I do assume that Steve's just kind of dead here. I mean, if he's hit any number of bridges, he's going to go crazy. Like we can see a whole bunch of therapies at the very least. I mean, I assume with only 17 cards left in his library, there's a Sun Titan in there. Probably hit some number of. There's Narcomoebas coming back. Like he can play a land and return any blood gas that he has in there.
Yeah, you imagine Steve has to be dead here.
Well, if he's not, he also can't win on his turn.
Right.
Like he can flip a Delver and bolt Dave down to 1. Also, Dave can just therapy away Bolt again. I mean, he knows several of the cards in Steve's hand from the previous therapy. So when he casts the first one, he can then see the Bolt and take the Bolt. So, I mean, if there's any number of bridges in this graveyard, Dave's just going to go crazy. If there is Dread Return, then it's going to be crazier.
So look, there's 2. We just saw them trigger here on this therapy. So he's going to probably therapy the Pyroblast is my guess. Take away Steve's ability to kill the bridges next turn. See the Bolt, come back at the Bolt too.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably just going to take everything. He's probably just going to take the Gust, the Pyroblast, and the Bolt.
Yep.
Put out 6 zombies, I imagine. And there goes the Pyro. Well, the bridge doesn't even matter anymore. It's already done its work. There's going to be a ton of zombies in play. The Delvers can't even get through. There's Narcomoebas.
Yeah. Yeah, this one looks pretty over. It's interesting, if he hit Dread Return, he probably would have brought back the Sun Titan already, so I'm guessing he didn't actually hit it. Here come 3 Bloodghasts, too. That just makes 1,000,000 tokens.
Yeah, so if Dave does not win this turn, he's set up to be easily winning next turn, and I don't think Steve can ever do anything about that at this point because he did not remove the bridges.
Yep. I wonder if we can actually get Steve's graveyard closed just so we can see all of Dave's. Steve's graveyard is not very relevant here. There we go. So we can see if Flame Gonzalez hanging out.
Yeah, if there was a Dread Return, which I don't see, I assume Steve would have just conceded, but
yep.
Looks like there's not, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, this is a matchup where if Dave passes just with 25 power in play, there's nothing Steve can really do.
Looking at Steve's sideboard, he has 3 Tabernacles, but he doesn't have, and 3 Grafdigger Skates. So a little light on cages, as we actually usually see 4, which is kind of standard, kind of strangely actually, and 3 Tabernacles, which are pretty interesting in this matchup.
Yeah, I wonder Tabernacle is a strange card to be playing here. I wonder if it's for this matchup. It must be.
I'm pretty sure it is. I think I've read Steve posts up that he'll be like the Tabernacle in his Delver sideboard as one of his main anti-dredge.
Tabernacle is good. None of the dredge answers react to it, right? Because if dredges bring in a bunch of Nature's Claims and bounce spells, they don't deal with Tabernacle, but it doesn't stop them from just one-turning you.
Right.
So I don't know how much I like it in the matchup.
Well, it helps that you have a bunch of ways to actually get rid of the bridges.
That is true. It's possible with this deck that it's fine.
Yeah, no other ways to interact with the graveyard. No Ravenous Sketch, Ravenous Trap, Tormod Script, or the Relic, or anything like that. So this could be challenging. I'm not actually sure how good Tabernacle is in this matchup. It's not a card that you see very often, and probably doesn't get to be tested too much.
Right. I've certainly never played against it. I mean, I've only played Dredge 4 matches now in my life, but none of them involve Tabernacle.
That's true. Well, there go the bridges. Their work has been done.
We'll get to leave behind 2 more friends, too. Oh.
Oh, he stacked it wrong.
Yep, stacked it wrong. Should have had 2 more guys. In fact, I think Steve probably should have just chumped the token instead, taken 1 more damage, but not given Dave the 2 more guys.
Well,
but
don't think there's anything that he can draw where it's ever going to matter.
that I agree with.
All the Ichorids and Bloodghast are also coming back next turn, so he's facing approximately 1,000,000.
And Dave can mill his entire graveyard, so he's going to find a Dread Return and bring back the Flame King Zealot.
Yep. no real reason to even play this out. Like you would normally do it for maybe information, see their whole deck, but you can just look at his deck list.
This one's all but done.
Steve's going to try to milk some of Dave's clock, though. Dave's sideboard.
Dave finds bridge, and he finds. Still hasn't done a dread return. Did he exile them with his serum powder?
Possible.
He only has one left, though. He can just find it. He'll find it right here. He mills another 6. Goes down to 1 card.
I don't think he needs it. He's got 13 creatures out and someone's at 11.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
No cards in hand. And even more creatures.
And he also hit the dread return. I guess Steve's going to make him go through the motions. Playing to the misclick outs.
Yeah, I guess that's a thing.
Yeah, I would hope he would concede even if Dave misclicked through his attack step here.
Don't move until you see it.
Maybe he's going to let Dave try to set the high score for most damage dealt in a turn.
I believe that's already been set at infinite. Bob versus Kai.
That is true. The real question is Steve would actually sign blockers?
I'm off it. Alright, still hoping for the misclick. Nope, the creature's turned sideways. Alright, blockers. This is unreal.
What he's really? Can we get like some kind of penalty assessed here?
Yeah. Williams just posted in our chat, why are you blocking?
What's going on?
Yeah, I would hope in a PT this would probably be a penalty.
I think he should lose like the rights to use one of his sideboard cards for the next game.
All right, Williams wins. Sure.
And a shocking conclusion.
He's not going to make him put all the bridge triggers on the stack.
All right, we'll go into sideboarding here. So Dave knows the exact 8 cards that he's going to be up against coming out of SC. So it's 3 Grafdigger's Cages and 3 Tabernacles.
Yep. So what does he do?
So typically you want to bring in some number of your Nature's Claims and Chain of Vapors. In this case, the Ingot Chewers are basically the same thing, right? Because all those cards kill Cage, but Chewers can't get misstepped, which is nice.
Yeah. He's got, I mean, the Chewer's main. Nice addition.
Oh, the one piece there, being able to do instant speed can also be huge because you can just end of turn take out their hate card when they play it, untap, and react. But since it's Cage, you don't actually care when you kill it. You usually kill it just before your triggers go off. Mm-hmm. So my guess is he actually leaves in Chewers here rather than going overboard on the 1-mana spells. Probably brings in like another Chewer or 2, maybe a Nature's Claim.
What are the cards you're generally putting out in the Stretch deck?
Elishnorn's pretty great here at resetting the board.
Yeah, but do you need to reset the board? Like, if you're able to bring things back from the graveyard, aren't you winning against this deck?
Generally speaking, yes, but Elishnorn I think is typically here for this matchup.
Well, Dave has Bazaar in his 7, but not a single card that actually dredges. But a lot of ways to stop Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah, you
And
keep this against Steve's deck with the hate Steve presents. Man, Steve has his when his hand appeared there briefly. Looked like he had his one copy of Strip Mine, which is great.
yeah, that is huge. Dave's gonna really be hoping to hit another copy of Bazaar in addition to Dredgers off this first go around.
Yeah, it's gonna put a lot of pressure on Dave's top deck ability
Although
here.
Steve doesn't have an ounce of pressure in his hand. He's got forcible no blue cards, like 3 lands, Lotus, Ingot Chewer, which is basically there to remove bridges. I imagine that you just evoke it and exile all the bridges, but
Yep.
nothing that's gonna put Dave under any pressure. Of course, the Dredge deck has no way to actually search for another Bazaar and can't do anything now, so. Or can do very little.
It's also so Ingot Chewer just remove bridges is sort of awkward because if you have Cage out, the dredge deck, especially the way that the hate that Menendian's presenting, the dredge deck will just build up a massive graveyard, and then when it's ready to actually dredge return something, then it will kill the Cage and go off. So Chewer doesn't actually interact with that game plan in any way. Sorcery Speed remove bridges is not a card I would want in this match unless you have really nothing else.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
I wonder. I'm not sure to even play the Cage on turn 1.
What's your plan? So wait for something?
Yeah, I mean, just getting a misstep is pretty brutal. But I mean, I guess it's fine. You just not have the misstep there, and it's not like you have like a great hand. Like you can set up a Forceful to protect it very easily. Well, maybe just wait for a blue card.
Alright, this is a big draw too.
Not what Dave was looking for there.
Yeah, those are some stinkers.
Yeah, we're
We
gonna
just
see
have
both
no
Super
Dredge
Powders
cards,
and the bridge.
no Bazaar.
Or I guess probably the Zealot will go down with one of the powders.
How screwed is Dave here? He just needs to hit Bazaar. By not hitting a Dredge card at all, or any creature you can bring back, so you can't present any clock, or any ability to dredge, or any way to manipulate his deck in any way.
Yep.
So it's basically Bazaar or bust, or is there another good draw in his deck?
That's excuse me. That's really what he's looking for here. I mean, none of his colored spells are going to interact. Okay, well, that one bridge is
Guess
gone.
if he draws a Grave Troll, he's 2 turns away from just discarding it and going slow.
Yeah, I mean, against Steve's hand, that actually isn't a bad plan. And Steve has no pressure whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just count on drawing that you're 3 out of 50. The old 6%er.
Maybe he draws another Undiscovered Paradise, or he can, start hard casting some Narcomoebas.
Yeah. Bouncing 2 lands back to his hand.
They're better in his hand. It sets him up to discard the hand size again. It's perfect.
It's true.
Oh, this will get mystical or misstepped for sure. You can't let him go get Treasure Cruise here, right?
No. Yeah. Or dig through time, even.
Right.
It's not. In this situation, if Steve's casting Mystical, he's looking for Treasure Cruise or Dig Through Time because he knows that the only interaction that Dave's deck has is Mental Misstep. So while Ancestral Recall is the more powerful card, it's the only card that can actually be interacted with in Dave's deck. There's no reason to get set up by Mental Missteps. In this case, he would just go get Treasure Cruise or Dig Through Time. He's got plenty of cards in his graveyard. He's got Black Lotus, so that is the reason for that.
Wow, he let that. I think that's a big mistake letting that resolve.
Yeah, I agree.
Now all of a sudden, Steve gets to go and just find some pressure.
Interesting. I don't know why you would consider letting that resolve. I mean, the best things you can dig for are basically 1-mana spells anyway, but odds are he's going to hit 2 of them, so...
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
guess
the only logic there is if Dave's really just all in on this draw Grave Troll and discard it and didn't want to give up a turn, but
yeah,
he's losing way more than a turn by letting Steve cast Dig.
yeah, I agree.
Maybe he thought that if he didn't miss that bit, Steve would go get Ancestral and be greedy. But I think that's just
Especially even better than Dig here. I guess he doesn't know that Steve has Lotus. So
right, exactly.
yeah, for Steve, I think Dig Through Time is just a better card than Ancestral on this spot, but that's because we know he has Lotus. We see what Steve is looking at because we know it's going to take a while.
He's out there doing some calculus, deriving the first principles of magic.
How to build the perfect Dig Through Time pile. Ooh, a card.
We got one. Ooh, we got two. I like the two cards he's chosen. Two threats, two proactive cards. Really, all he wants to do is end the game as quickly as possible, while Dave is floundering.
Dave is still on the Bazaar bus plan. And even if he hits Bazaar, it's going to take some time, but it'll do some work eventually.
Yeah, not what Dave was looking for there. We'll see the Undercover Paradise come back down. And then we'll see it get picked back up. Dave there not did he not pick up his Undercover Paradise or did he replay it? I didn't
He
notice.
did pick it up, but I don't actually think that was the turn that matters at all.
Yeah, this turn definitely matters. Obviously, he puts him at 8 cards.
Yeah.
It's big here that he picks it up. So there it is.
All right.
Now we're playing some Magic.
Oh, you really punted by picking up that land.
And Steve has only managed to put Dave on an 8-turn clock here so far.
True.
I might just cycle this Pyroblast just to put a 1/1 into play at this point.
Would you? Nah, that seems bad.
I guess if he hadn't hit Bazaar, I like doing it. Maybe with the Bazaar in play, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, he's still looking to hit one of his good cards and protect it. His Force of Will is very much off. Pyroblast is not super exciting in this matchup, hitting Mental Missteps, Narcomoebas, and your own cards.
All right, found a Blood Gas, found a Therapy.
Still nothing with Dredge. Gets another crack on his upkeep.
Yep.
And as you said, he's just not on a clock.
Yeah, at all.
Tabernacle is going to be interesting. Wonder if Dave knows to play around it. Of course, having Therapy is going to help. Still airballs.
Yeah, they should start hard casting his therapies here.
What's your first name?
What's that?
What's your first name on Therapy?
In this spot,
Line.
you're like, what could he have that he wouldn't have cast yet? And I'd probably say Force of Will. Here, like, you don't care about any of the other spells he would have.
I agree.
Just look at his list to make sure I'm not forgetting anything that could be hanging out. Yeah, I mean, literally every other card in his deck he would have cast.
Could
This
be
is the kind
Treasure Cruise.
he could have drawn Cruz since he.
Well, it doesn't matter. You can always. I mean, it's not a big deal if you miss on Cruise. With all these therapies, it's slow. It's gonna cost. It's gonna be concentrate at best, and he can't cast it anyway.
Right. Let's see if Dave comes to my conclusion and names Forcible here.
Would work out nice for him.
He honestly could also name Pyroblast. I mean, that's the other card that could be stuck in the hand, but I think Forcible actually does something, so you might as well name it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I boarded out all my Pyroblasts against Dave last week. I don't know if it's a card that typically is supposed to stay in. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know why it's in.
So it certainly would be something I would blind name because I wouldn't even expect it.
Yeah, and then Forcible. So, I mean, the cards that I'm taking out the Misdirection. I'm taking out the Ancient Grudge. I'm taking out the. If he's bringing in his Ingot Sugars, I don't see how Pyroblast can also stay in.
Yeah. I don't know.
Cutting the Flusterstorms, there are just so many dead cards in the matchup.
I agree with that part.
And he's bringing in a lot of cards. If he's bringing in the Ingot Sugars, that's like 10 cards he's bringing in. Maybe he's not bringing all the Ingot Sugars in, he's only bringing in a couple, but.
I think that's more likely. Like, the thing is, you actually want to keep the bolts in for the plan of being able to blow up the bridges, so.
Definitely.
There aren't as many cards to bring out. Mental Misstep is, of course, good because it answers all the sideboard cards.
Yep. Yeah, I think like Misdirection, 2 Pyroblasts, 2 Flusterstorms, and an Ancient Grudge. That's 6 cards that seem they all want to come out.
Steve,
and nothing else jumps out as being like actively terrible. Trigon Predator is pretty bad, so maybe those 2 as well.
Steve just gushed and hit perfect. Ancestral Misstep. That's absurd. Well, this game just turned around dramatically, hitting runner. Well, those aren't the best.
Now he's to avoid clicking on his Tabernacle.
Going up pretty easy.
Okay, he's faded for this turn.
On probably a 2. I guess it's going to be hard to make it a 2-turn clock.
Yeah, unless he draws Bolt down, so he makes it clock.
So this Paradise is going to bounce. He's not going to be able to bring that back to Bloodbath. Replays on this Paradise. There's no reason to Bazaar up. He doesn't have any dredge cards and can't bring back any Narcotips or anything hits anyway. Is that not true?
Yeah, Narcomoose won't be able to come in. Nothing comes in that he hits.
So would you Bazaar on your upkeep or wait?
I would wait till you can kill the cage.
Yeah, that's what I figured too. He's going to do it on his upkeep, it looks like.
He's not hitting what he wants. This is one spot where it is nice to have an instant speed, because that's Nature's Claim. He blows up the cage right here, and the Bloodghast comes in.
Yeah, but the Bloodghast actually isn't even doing anything.
Yeah, it's not super relevant on this board. It can be though with certain
can't block.
certain spots.
Well, not hitting any dredge cards again means, Dave's gonna have to go off next turn. It's not gonna be easy.
No, it's gonna have to involve, I think, getting a Sun Titan to bring back that old Bazaar. This is really his only shot here. And it's gonna be so hard for him to get. And then there's a Forcible now ready to go. And he doesn't have any bridges in his graveyard anyway, right? So he's missing all the pieces.
Yeah, he really is. Just
so he has 2 Icarids.
Steve hit the 5 runners in a row. And Dave did get lucky to get that second Bazaar. I mean, unlucky to be facing the one of Strip Mine.
Yeah.
But, the Bazaar just did not turn up anything at any point.
So here he has both Icards coming back and a Bloodghast in his graveyard, so he does have a chance to get enough stuff. Again, he bricked. So now he can return like an Icarid and a Bloodghast. So he needs to have.
He gets to dredge the Thug, and the Dread Return is already in the graveyard.
Right. So
So
the
he
Thug needs to hit an Archimeeba, a Bridge, and the Sun Titan, I think, here to have a shot.
Oh, does he need an Archimedes?
He needs to get a third guy into play, right? So he can catch every turn.
Cast the third guy, or does he not have things to remove for Icarus?
He doesn't have anything left to remove except for just the. He only has the one Bloodghast.
All right.
So I guess when I said the Archimedes also could have been another Bloodghast. He needs another free creature.
Yeah.
The Sun Titan to bring back, and then a Bridge.
Of course, not really relevant with Steve having the Force of Wills.
Well, he has 3 Cabal Therapies in his yard, so that actually is fine as long as he hits the Bridge.
Oh, sure. Yeah, he just needed. Oh, he didn't hit what he needed to. But.
Right. He's just dead here. He didn't hit any piece of it. That flop did not connect.
Another game 3. Obviously, Dave's gonna have to play this one out after Steve decided to block his 220-point attack.
Force of Willing the Cabal Therapy. Don't.
Okay.
Really can, but it doesn't matter. All right, so I really like Dave's chances here in this matchup. I think Steve's sideboard plan is just not going to be very effective.
I agree with that.
Dave's draw there was horrific, and he still kind of came close to winning.
I mean, his opening hand was good.
It was okay. It had, I mean, any hand with Bazaar plus Dredger is a lot better, obviously.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Bazaar plus 3 ways to stop, Cage or Delvers at least is pretty nice.
Agreed.
No way to stop Strip Mine though. No way for that. Taking a look at Steve's sideboard again, as we've talked about, we got to see what he brought in. It looked like Ingot Chewers, Tabernacles, and of course Cage.
I just don't see how. Maybe he misclicked and forgot to put out a Pyroblast. I just don't see how Pyroblast stays in with so many cards that he's bringing in.
We see the constant Dave sending hands back.
Dave's have to go to 4 here. Steve's hand's not great, but Dave's going to Oblivion.
Yep.
Gets the powder at least on 1.
Yep.
He misclicked and kept the powder. Oh, the powder's just 1 less. Anyways, doesn't matter. That's actually correct. Keep the powder there, obviously. And Dave just concedes. That's a loose concession, actually. I mean, Steve's hand had nothing. If Dave just drew a Bazaar, he was still in that game.
Yeah.
I think he may have just been tilted a little bit there by how long.
I agree with that analysis.
Yeah, it is a daunting task to face down another 15-minute struggle there.
Okay, well, pretty nice climax at the end there.
Exciting game 3, but hopefully I can do a little bit better, get a little luckier with Dredge than we saw Dave get right there, because Menendian just has no real sideboard plan, and Dave still couldn't pull it off, unfortunately. Luis has a much better sideboard against me in the next match, so I'm going to need to do a little bit better than that.
Got 2 Pro Tour champions, LSV versus Tom Martell. Yeah, stay tuned.